Everything you've ever known, your body, your mind, your memories, even the feeling of being you, is actually part of an illusion. It's not a mistake or something broken, but a carefully created and meaningful illusion so complete that you forgot you were dreaming. From the moment you opened your eyes in this world, you were taught to believe you're separate, that there's you and everything else. You got a name, a background, a culture, and a guide for how life is supposed to go. And you believed it because you needed to. You trusted the people around you. But what if all of that, your fears, your goals, your sense of time and space, was only part of the story? What if reality isn't something that just happens to you, but something that happens through you? This is the full truth behind Maya. Maya isn't just some old word or fancy idea. It's the force that shapes everything you experience. Once you recognize it, you can't unsee it. From your earliest memories, you were taught to see yourself as separate from other people, from nature, from the universe. The world was explained to you in opposites, good versus bad, right versus wrong, me versus them. It seemed obvious. Here's your body, and there's everything outside it. You feel joy, others cause pain. You have thoughts, others have theirs. But underneath all that, something always felt a little off. There was a quiet feeling you couldn't quite name, like something was missing but you didn't know what. That's the first illusion, Maya's strongest trick, separation. This illusion isn't just spiritual, it's how your senses work too. Your eyes see separate objects, your ears catch bits of sound, your mind puts everything in little boxes. But what you perceive isn't the same as what really is. It's how your brain interprets things. You don't see the world as it truly is. You see it as your mind shapes it. And that way of seeing was built by systems meant to keep us divided. But what if the line between you and everything else isn't real? What if it's just a temporary idea that helped us survive, but doesn't hold up to the truth? This isn't just spiritual talk, it's physics. The same energy that flows through a blade of grass flows through your veins. The particles in your brain aren't separate from their surroundings. They're connected, inseparable, interacting all the time. But still, you've been taught to believe you're a single, solid, separate person living among others. Maya isn't a lie like we usually think of lies. It's more like a filter that changes the infinite into separate individuals so well that we spend our whole lives trying to get back to a place we never really left. We're taught to look for meaning, purpose, and salvation outside of ourselves. But wise people from many traditions whispered something different. What you're searching for is inside you, not just as a metaphor, but literally, because it's not out there. The same awareness that moves through everything moves through you. The ocean doesn't end where the wave starts. That quiet longing you've felt all your life, that ache you tried to fill with people, things, or achievements isn't weakness. It's a memory of oneness hidden beneath all the noise of separation. It's the deepest part of you remembering that this world of pieces was never the whole story. Maya creates this illusion so that awareness can experience itself through limits, through opposites, through contrast, not to make us suffer, but to help us learn, grow, and remember. And it's in those moments of remembering that the illusion starts to fade. Not all at once, but bit by bit. Like when you look into someone's eyes and forget where you end and they begin. Or when you get lost in a sunset, music, or stillness, and for a moment, the boundary disappears. Those moments aren't accidents. They're glimpses of what's always been true. What you're waking up to isn't just a new idea, it's your original state. Before you knew your name, before your story even began, you were already whole. And even though the illusion might seem strong, remember this, it's made to be seen through. Maya isn't a mistake or a glitch. It's the very system that makes the infinite become limited. It's how the eternal enters time and the unlimited pretends to have a name and face. Calling it an illusion can make you miss its deepest beauty. Maya isn't here to trick you. It's here to give awareness something it can't have in its raw, formless state. The beauty of limits, the excitement of becoming. The ancient sages of India didn't call Maya a lie. They called it the divine art of the universe, the creative force that brings the universe into being, like how light creates shadows to give shape to things. Without it, the absolute, formless, eternal reality, Brahman, would stay hidden and unexpressed. Maya is the dance of expression. It's how the formless becomes stars, trees, cities, a child's laughter, and even the silence between your thoughts. But to join this play, the one has to forget itself. That's the price of the game. Like an actor so deep in their role that they forget they're on a stage. The infinite becomes the individual and believes it's real. You were never meant to stay lost in this role forever, but the illusion is convincing. And that's what makes it sacred. The dream feels real when you stub your toe, when you cry over lost love, when you fear death. These aren't shallow illusions. They're real experiences. And experiences are exactly why awareness split itself in the first place. To feel, to taste, to touch itself through form. Maya is the mask the divine wears to know itself in every way. But we made the mistake of thinking the mask was our face. We got so used to the story that we forgot we were playing a part. We believed the story so much, we stopped questioning the script. Every part of Maya keeps you playing your role, your name, gender, nationality, beliefs, goals. None of these things are lies, but they're not the whole truth either. They're temporary containers that consciousness uses to move through life. Like waves on the ocean, they exist but aren't separate. They're just the surface expression of something way deeper. Here's Maya's big paradox. The more real it feels, the stronger it gets. If you went through life always knowing it was just a projection, you wouldn't experience the full range of what this reality offers. Love wouldn't feel painful, loss wouldn't weigh so heavy, and beauty wouldn't hit you so deeply. But by forgetting, you get to feel it all. And feeling is how the infinite grows. The ancient Vedic sages talked about Leela, the divine play. Maya isn't a prison, it's the stage. It gives meaning to the act of remembering, and remembering is everything, because one day the actor will look in the mirror and recognize the face under the makeup. The dreamer will wake up inside the dream, and when that happens, the illusion doesn't disappear. It just becomes see-through. You'll still have a body, you'll still have a name, but behind your eyes a new awareness will shine, not as someone searching for truth, but as the truth itself that chose to look for a moment. Long before telescopes and labs, before equations and particle accelerators, there were people who sat quietly and closed their eyes, not to sleep, but to see what they could sense without tools. Modern science is just beginning to catch glimpses, through microscopes and quantum physics, that mystics and scientists have been pointing to the same surprising truth for ages. Reality isn't what it seems. The sages of the Upanishads described the universe as a dream projected by Brahman, the formless absolute. They called Maya a sacred veil, a look that seems real to the senses but fades when truly noticed. Thousands of years later, Buddhist teachings said the world is always changing, connected, and without fixed identity. Taoists talked about the dance of yin and yang, not as two separate things, but as one movement seen in parts. Ancient Egyptian Hermetic teachings said, all is mind, the universe is mental. Then came quantum physics. After centuries of studying the physical world, Western scientists split the atom and found something unexpected. Matter isn't solid, it's made of patterns of probability, a dance of possibilities. What we call a particle only becomes a particle when we look at it. Before that, it's a wave, a cloud of chances. The famous double-slit experiment showed that light acts like a wave until we measure it, then it becomes a particle. In other words, reality changes when you observe it. Werner Heisenberg, a founder of quantum mechanics, said, "What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning." Simply put, reality isn't objective. It reacts to the observer. This idea that consciousness shapes what we see isn't just spiritual talk. It's a scientific principle. Physicist and philosopher David Bohm suggested that behind what we see, there's a hidden order, a field of pure potential where everything comes from. He described the universe not as separate pieces, but as one whole, only broken up by how we see it. This matches the Upanishadic view of Brahman, one undivided consciousness showing up in many forms. Erwin Schrödinger, the scientist behind Schrödinger's cat, studied the Upanishads closely. He came to believe consciousness is one, and the idea of separate minds is an illusion. What looks like many minds is really one mind experiencing itself in many ways. He said, "There is no place where we find consciousness in plural. That's just something we made up because there are many people, but it's not true." When you start seeing these connections, something inside you changes. It's not that science is finally proving spirituality, it's that both have always been looking at the same mystery from different sides of the mirror. The mystic goes inward into silence to find the truth. The scientist breaks down the visible world to understand the invisible, and somewhere in the middle, their hands meet. This matters because it breaks down the wall between spiritual and real, sacred and scientific. The story you were told, that spirituality is just feelings and science is just facts, is Maya wearing another mask, another trick of division. But when these ideas stand side by side, they start speaking the same language, the language of unity, consciousness, and possibility. That leads to a powerful conclusion. The world doesn't exist separately from you. It's shaped by you, your perception, your questions, your awareness, not because you're imagining it, but because you're part of it. Reality isn't a fixed stage. It's something you take part in. This isn't just philosophy, it's your life. There's a question older than all religions, deeper than any teaching, behind every thought you've ever had. Who is the one who sees, not just with the eyes, but who notices thoughts, feelings, the rise and fall of your body? Who is the quiet observer behind your personality? You've worn many masks in life: child, student, lover, friend, stranger, and each role came with its own script and expectations. But behind every role there was something steady, something that didn't age when your body did, something that didn't leave when others did. That presence, that watching awareness, doesn't belong to the roles you play. It belongs to who you really are. Yet most people never question the character they play. They live their whole lives as the mask, confusing the temporary for the eternal. This is one of Maya's sneakiest tricks, the illusion of identity, the belief that you are your story. You got a name before you understood what it meant. You were told who you were by people who didn't fully know themselves. You inherited fears, beliefs, wounds, and called it your personality. Over time, you built a self-image from memories, praise, rejection, and habits. But identity isn't your true self. The person you think you are is a well-made illusion, a useful tool, yes, but not the truth, like a dream that feels real while you're inside it. The ego, the me you talk about every day, feels solid. But when you ask, "Who am I really?" and look inside, you don't find a fixed answer. You find silence, space, something watching it all yet untouched by any of it. Ramana Maharshi, one of India's most respected modern sages, focused his teaching on one simple question: who am I? Not to get a quick answer, but to let go of all the false answers, because every answer is just another layer of illusion. Every title, every hurt, every skill, none of it touches the quiet part inside that watches everything. And that quietness isn't just yours. It's the same awareness shining through every person's eyes. The differences between people are just different expressions, experiences, and appearances. But the one who sees is the same presence in billions of faces. This is what Maya hides, and oddly, what it reveals when you start waking up. It hides your true self behind the mask of who you think you are, behind the noisy thoughts, behind the act of being someone. But once you notice you're acting, something amazing happens. You stop believing the character is the whole story. You start feeling the dreamer inside the dream. And this isn't just a metaphor. Every night you fall asleep and enter a world where you run, talk, get scared, and feel happy, even though your body stays still in bed. The dream feels real until you wake up. Then you say, "It was only a dream." But what if waking up from this life works the same way? What if death is just waking up from the illusion of being separate, of having an identity, of time? The more you watch yourself, the less control the illusion has. When you notice a thought without getting lost in it, you create space. When you feel an emotion without being overwhelmed, you start to taste freedom. Not the kind that comes from changing the outside world, but the kind that comes from no longer being trapped by it. Because the truth is, you were never just a character in this story. You were always the one writing it. But at some point, you read the story so closely and with so much feeling that you forgot you were holding the pen. Now the story starts to change, because you remember. Maya isn't some mystical veil floating somewhere far away. It's woven into your everyday life, in how you talk, how you think, how you react without even thinking. If Maya is the illusion of reality, then culture is its echo, and the strongest illusions are the ones you never even realize you've accepted. From the first day of school, you were taught not to think for yourself, but to remember, repeat, and obey. You stood when told, sat when told, asked permission to speak, and learned that being right was more important than being curious. Every gold star, every grade, every approving smile wasn't really education, it was conditioning. Conditioning you to seek approval, to measure your value by outside rules, to believe security comes from fitting in. So a system was set up where success means conforming, rebellion is punished instead of discussed, and asking the wrong questions can make you the wrong kind of person. This is Maya's sneakiest form. Not just tricking your senses, but tricking your sense of self-worth. You're told who to be, what to care about, and what kind of life is worth living. And you rarely question it, because questioning threatens the identity you were handed. And that identity becomes the filter you see the world through. Carl Jung understood this well. He saw how people carry not only their own experiences, but also inherited stories, symbols, and roles passed down by culture. You think you choose your beliefs, but often your beliefs choose you. Picked up piece by piece through repetition, stories, and the invisible pressure to belong. And then there's language, the oldest kind of spell. Every phrase you heard as a kid had hidden meanings. Don't answer taught you that doubt is disrespect. Be a good boy taught you obedience wins love. That's just how things are taught you resistance is useless. These words were more than rules. They were scripts. Over time, those scripts became your inner voice. Even the stories meant to entertain weren't innocent. Think about the heroes, always chosen, always noble, always putting duty before their own wishes. Think about the villains, always outsiders, always rebels. Those who refused to follow. You weren't just watching stories, you were being taught what kind of person to become. Maya isn't kept in place by force. It stays because we agree to it. Most of us agree without even realizing. We chase goals we never really chose. We smile when we're hurting. We compete instead of connecting. We keep the system going even when it drains us. Then, when something inside starts to ache, when that quiet question rises, is this all there is? You're told it's just stress or growing up or hormones, anything but the truth, because the system has no room for someone who sees through it. But that question is a door, and once it opens, it's hard to close because deep down you already know the system isn't real. The daily grind, empty wins, identity based on what you buy, you know it's all a show. And more than that, you know you aren't just the role you're playing. You can feel your true self just beneath the surface, watching, waiting, remembering. This is the psychological matrix, not built by machines but by generations of minds on autopilot. Not controlled by tyrants but by stories, screens, and social pressure. And just like in a dream, the moment you realize you're dreaming, the illusion starts to lose power. That power was never out there. It was in your attention, your awareness, and your choice to stop repeating what no longer feels true. And when enough people start to see through it, the matrix doesn't just crack, it falls apart. If you pay attention, the illusion will start to flicker, not in some big mystical event, but in small, quiet moments. A pause in conversation when your mind stops trying to figure it out. A breath where your usual anxiety doesn't show up. A brief feeling that you're not inside your thoughts, but watching them from outside. At first it doesn't last long, but it's enough. Enough to make you wonder if the reality you were sold is the whole story, or just a small piece in disguise. This is when the veil starts to lift. Not because Maya failed, but because you were never meant to stay asleep forever. The illusion had to be strong, otherwise the game wouldn't work. You wouldn't feel the joy of waking up without first feeling the pain of forgetting. But seeing through Maya doesn't mean rejecting life or checking out. It means seeing clearly. It means no longer being hypnotized by what's on the surface. You still walk the same streets, eat the same food, use the same name. But something inside you has shifted. The weight behind who you think you are, the stress behind your goals, the desperation behind your efforts, all of it starts to loosen. And when it loosens, space opens up. Consciousness can breathe again. Ancient wise people mapped this territory in ways we've mostly forgotten. In Vedanta, reality is described in 3 layers. First, Vyavaharika, the everyday, practical reality like dreams or illusions. Second, Vyavaharika, the shared world where things work, where society functions, where water quenches thirst. But beyond both lies Paramarthika, the absolute, formless, timeless truth that isn't touched by thoughts, names, or senses. Most people never see beyond the second layer. They live in the shared world, thinking it's the whole truth. But mystics see beyond, not by denying the world, but by seeing it as it really is, always changing, connected. A dance of appearances happening on the canvas of consciousness. And once you catch a glimpse of that, even for a moment, you can't fully go back. It's like noticing the canvas behind a painting. The story stays compelling, the characters still believable, but you're no longer lost in the plot. You start to notice the space between scenes, the silence under the sounds, the presence behind the personality. Maya doesn't disappear, it becomes see-through. You'll still feel pain, but now you can watch it come and go. Instead of becoming your thoughts, they pass by like clouds, not storms. You'll still play roles, but you'll know they're just costumes you wear lightly. This is coming back to presence, the simple, pure awareness that's always been with you. The same presence you had as a child before you knew your name. The same presence that watched your first memories form and will still be there after your last one fades. It doesn't argue or explain or search, it simply is. And when you rest in that presence, even just for a moment, Maya starts to do what it was really meant to do. It's not here to trap you, but to wake you up, to pull you so deeply into the illusion that the only way out is through it, not by running away or rejecting it, but by truly seeing it. The moment you really see, the illusion becomes sacred. Maya is often thought of as a curse, a trick, a wall between you and the truth. But those who've walked the path long enough see something deeper. Maya isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. It's the veil that hides and shows the truth at the same time, the paradox that both covers and guides. It's not a trap, but a design. Not punishment, but purpose. Imagine this: infinite consciousness, pure and without form, without history, without other. What would it know of love without separation? What would it know of growth without limits? What would it know of beauty without contrast? It would know nothing. So it projects itself into time, space, and matter. It chooses to forget itself so it can find itself again in every possible way, through you, through me, through every life, heartbreak, and sunrise. Maya is the canvas the formless paints experience on. The problem isn't that Maya exists, it's that we confuse the painting for the painter. We get so caught up in the brushstrokes, identity, success, pleasure, pain, that we forget who holds the brush. But forgetting was always part of the plan. Forgetting creates the chance to remember. And when you do remember, even the hardest parts of your story start to reveal a strange kind of grace. This is Maya's deepest purpose, not just to hide the truth, but to show it through experience. Every desire you chased, every fear you ran from, every role you played, each was a hidden lesson, not meant to trap you, but to bring you closer to what you can never lose: your own consciousness. The Gita says, "This Maya of mine is hard to overcome, but those who take refuge in me rise above it." That me isn't a person or God. It's consciousness itself. The only way out of Maya isn't to fight it, but to return to the awareness behind all experience. Return to the presence that was never fooled, even when you were. And this return doesn't mean leaving the world behind. It doesn't ask you to give up your stuff or hide away. The world doesn't need to be escaped. It needs to be seen clearly. Every interaction, every irritation, every joy is an invitation to wake up, to see through the mask without ripping it off, to live in the illusion with open eyes. This is what mystics meant by calling the world a divine play, Leela. Not chaos or randomness, but a sacred drama where the one becomes many, and the many slowly remember they were always one. And in that remembering, something softens. You stop fighting life. You stop needing things to go your way. You stop seeing challenges as punishments and start seeing them as lessons. The pain that once broke you becomes the power that opens you. The loss that emptied you becomes the space that reveals something deeper. The fear that once froze you becomes the door you step through. Shaky, yes, because Maya doesn't just show you what you're not. It takes you to who you really are. Through false identities, you find the real. Through impermanence, you taste the eternal. Through limits, you reclaim freedom. And here's the cosmic joke: you were never truly lost. You were playing hide and seek with yourself. And Maya was the playground all along. When the illusion starts to fall apart, a question pops up right away. If this world isn't real, then what is? If my memories, my identity, even my thoughts can change or disappear, what stays? And here Maya plays its last trick. It not only breaks down the world you thought was solid, but opens the door to a new way of seeing reality. You were taught that reality is physical. If you can touch it, measure it, weigh it, it's real. But what about what you can't measure? Love, presence, consciousness, perception. You've never looked at a thought under a microscope, but it shapes your entire life. You've never held a moment of peace in your hand, but you know exactly when you're in one. Maybe reality isn't about how heavy or solid things seem, but about how deep they are. Maybe the things that last the longest can't be seen. The Upanishads say the world is neti-neti, not this, not that. When you try to define reality by what you see, hear, or feel, you lose it because reality isn't what appears. It's the awareness that lets things appear. When you really get this, you start to see. It's not the objects that are real, but the space where they show up. That space is you, not you with a name and a story, but the calm, unchanging awareness that's watched everything happen. That part of you never ages, never panics, never clings. That alone is real. Everything else, the drama, the dreams, the decorations, comes and goes. But that doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it sacred. When you know life is a dream, you stop being a prisoner and start playing the game consciously. You stop holding tight to outcomes and begin experiencing. You stop trying to control and start watching. And in that watching, you don't lose connection. You find it. The more you understand Maya, the more you realize it's not about escaping reality, but about changing how you see it. The illusion wasn't punishment. It was a training ground, a mirror, a hidden teacher. When you stop forcing the dream to be what you want, it starts teaching you everything it meant to. That's why old traditions didn't tell you to reject the world. They told you to clean your vision, to stop seeing through fear, desire, and separation, the addictions behind appearances. When you do that, something big happens. You start living in truth. You speak with kindness, not because it's right, but because you realize you're talking to yourself. You forgive, not out of being noble, but because you see holding grudges in a dream is pointless. You let go, not out of weakness, but because you finally know nothing real can be lost. Most people get awakening wrong. They think it means floating above life, detached and cold. But real awakening isn't distance, it's closeness. You don't lose your humanity, you get it back fully. You feel more, love more deeply, see more clearly. You cry without shame, laugh for no reason, give without needing anything back. When this shift happens, everything becomes healing, your mistakes, your shadows, your old habits, because now you see all of it as part of the dream, ripples in awareness, not problems to fix or fights to win, but lessons to learn and then let go. This is real freedom, not running away but being present, not numbness but clarity, not picking up new beliefs but dropping illusions. You stop needing answers and start trusting the unknown. You stop chasing purpose and start living it. If you take only one thing from this, let it be this. Maya was never your prison, it was your path. And now, as the veil lifts, you get to decide how you want to walk it. Now that you see the illusion, what will you do? This is where most people pause. When the things you relied on start falling apart, when the beliefs you held don't make sense anymore, it's tempting to pull away, to hide behind the excuse of being awake. But awakening isn't disconnecting, it's stepping back into life with open eyes, not as just a character, but as consciousness playing the part. Not to escape the dream, but to dream with awareness, choice, and presence. You're still here in human form, moving through time with your senses. But now something inside is free, not controlled by fear, not defined by roles, no longer caught up in the noise. You don't have to leave the world. You just need to stop mistaking it for absolute truth. This is Maya's greatest gift. It wasn't meant to trick you, but to bring you home to yourself. Every illusion it made, every role you took, every joy and pain you felt, it all brought you here, not to the end, but to the real beginning. Now you can live not from old habits, fear, or expectations, but from clarity, and that clarity is powerful. It doesn't yell or argue, it just sees, and by seeing, it acts, not to fix the world, but to show what's true. Living from that awareness, you become the dreamer who knows they're dreaming. You'll still work, still face struggles, still talk with others, but you won't get lost in the noise. You'll notice the silence beneath it all, the stillness that's always been there. And that is the quiet revolution. When you live from awareness, the illusion loses its power. You stop chasing meaning, you start creating it. You don't ask permission to be yourself. You just are. And when others feel that in you, something shifts in them too. Because being real spreads, not by preaching, but by just being. That's why your awakening matters. Not just for you, but for everyone around you. The system that runs on unconsciousness fears nothing more than people who see clearly, live fully, and act from truth. One awakened person, moving through the illusion with love, clarity, and grace, is stronger than any protest or ideology. You've already started remembering. But remembering is just the first step. Now it's time to live it, to let awareness guide your choices, your creativity, your relationships. The dream isn't over, it's just become clear. From now on, you're not just watching, you're a conscious player. You shape the illusion, not to control it, but to fill it with meaning, honesty, and love. Let this be your turning point. Not to run from the world, but to come back to it fully awake. Speak truthfully, act with love, create on purpose, and above all, don't fall back asleep. The system will try, distractions will come, but the more you stay rooted in awareness, the harder it will be to forget. If you've made it this far, still searching, still learning, still waking up, don't stop now. The dream can be beautiful, but the truth is even more amazing. If this speaks to you, share in the comments. I get it.